So greetings, Jeff from Wisconsin. Slide down to the bottom of your chat window and find the little button and then make it say everyone so that everyone will know that you're here.
Excellent. And we'll just get started in about 2 minutes. Looks like we're streaming. Hi, everyone out in YouTube land.
Got Evie from Puerto Rico. Bayville, New Jersey. So you've had some fun weather lately. Baton Rouge, too.
Hi, my friend Carmen's joining us. Wonderful. Hi, Carmen. She's on YouTube. It looks like there are a lot of International Observe the Moon Night repeat viewers here. Nice to see you all.
A couple people from the shore.
Sandlin Alice is saying hello to you. Hi.
Well, I think we should go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to this special webinar. Once again, we bring back Andrea Jones from NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. She's the public engagement lead of the Solar System Exploration Division at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center and the director of the International Observe the Moon Night. We also have our own Vivian White from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific and Salmon Buxner from, I always get this mixed up,
the Planetary Science Institute.
Okay, there we go,
Yep.
in Tucson, Arizona. So we've got a variety of people here. And so we're all really happy that all of you can join us as we get ready for International Observe the Moon Night. This year's event is on October 16th. And so we're very excited to bring this to you so that you can get lots of really great events going on there. And so I'm going to turn it over to Vivian, who's going to MC the rest of the program. So Vivian.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here with you. I'm going to share my screen now and hope that I share the right one. I have a few different screens open. How's that? Thumbs up? Yeah. Okay, great. Excellent. Welcome, Andrea. Tell us all about International Observe the Moon Night.
Well, thank you so much, Vivian, and thank you everyone for being here. It is just such a pleasure to join all of you. And Brian, thanks for having us as well. It's just a great time to be talking about the moon, and I'm so excited to be here with Sandlin and Vivian to do that. So we really appreciate the time that you're taking to be with us today or tonight or wherever you are, whatever time it is. And we really appreciate your interest in International Observe the Moon Night. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the program for those of you who are not deeply familiar with it or those of you who have participated for a long time and would like to learn some updates for this year. And then I'm going to share some lunar science highlights from the past year since the last International Observe the Moon Night. And then I'm going to turn it over to Vivian, who is going to share some resources and activities and tips and some more information. And to Sandlin, who's going to let you all know how much we appreciate your feedback and how by taking our surveys, you can help us make this program better year after year. So let's get started. So next slide, Vivian. So I hope many of you are familiar with this, but in case you're not, International Observe the Moon Night is a worldwide celebration of lunar science, exploration, our personal and cultural connections to the moon. So it's a day each year that we invite everyone on Earth to get together and to celebrate the moon and to learn about the moon and to share moon stories and moon experiences with one another. So you can participate by attending or hosting an event, or as a lunar observer. You can be out with your family, you can be out with friends, or all by yourself and be a part of this event. And we can also connect with one another through social media. So next slide. This is an event that we have each fall. So it's on or near a first quarter moon, which some people think is a little bit curious, but we do it because we know many people who participate in this event are amateur astronomers and people who enjoy looking at the moon through telescopes. And we hope that you appreciate this great view that you'll get of the cratered terrain of the moon when you have the terminator, that line between day and night, that really reveals those rugged landscapes that you don't really see quite as well on a full moon. Although I will say, we encourage you anytime, I definitely personally encourage you anytime the moon is visible to take a look at it. It's really amazing to see how it changes throughout the month and what you can see along that terminator. So next slide, please. So something really important about this program is that though we definitely are excited to have people get outside and look at the moon and observe the moon with your eyes and through a telescope if you possibly can, there's really a lot of ways that you can observe the moon. So you can look at the cratered terrain, the beautiful mountainous landscapes in data. So we have some really incredible images from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and also many other spacecrafts as well. Some of you may have access to 3D printers, and maybe you can actually print out a three-dimensional landscape of the moon, or you can go, to a library and potentially print one out, and you can actually feel the cratered terrain. You can make moon art, you can do moon dances, you can make moon cookies. There's all kinds of ways that you can participate listening to songs or watching movies or telling stories. Really, the moon is woven into our language and our art and our culture, and appreciating it in any of those ways is something we really strongly encourage you to do and to share with us. We have a lot of different ways that you can connect and let us see and let others around the world who are participating see just how you are celebrating the moon. So next slide. So in 2020, yeah, I can't even remember what year we're in right now. So I was thinking this was a year that's been 100 years, but during the global pandemic, we were really focusing our attention on accommodating virtual and small group and individual participation. So we really invested heavily in our program website, which is moon.nasa.gov/observe. And we updated the site's look and language and architecture. We expanded our registration structure and some of our program materials to try to better support those of you who are participating over digital platforms or at home. And we hope you really appreciated that. It seems like a lot of you did. And so because of the praise you gave to our first NASA TV broadcast from last year, we're going to do it again. And we also had some great lunar-inspired artwork in a wide range of media. So that has been so fun. And you'll see some of these artworks I have in slides coming up, but it was really wonderful to see how people were able to safely participate even in the midst of a global pandemic. So this event was in September last year. Our map from the event is right in the middle of that slide, and you can see hundreds of thousands of people around the world still participated. We had people in all 50 US states, in 103 countries, and for the very first time on all 7 continents participating. So up in the top left there, that is actually an event at the South Pole of the moon that we had for the first time. And it was really wonderful to see how much traffic we got on moon.nasa.gov and how many people were sharing content on social media through Observe the Moon. And something that I really thought was amazing is that 75% of people who took our Lunar Observer Survey said that their interest in lunar science and exploration increased as a result of learning about the moon during International Observe the Moon Night. So I thought this was amazing. And we were so excited that we were able to reduce a lot of barriers to entry into International Observe the Moon Night last year. And we're going to continue supporting virtual engagement this year. Even if some people are able to support in-person events, we still want to make those of you who would prefer to have digital engagement be able to do that. And we're going to keep that up no matter what, even when we all do feel a lot safer getting together in person. So next slide. I'm going to switch now to some of our lunar science highlights from the past year. We're going to have more information and more details about the specifics of how to get involved in the event. But I want to make sure that those of you who are interested in some of the recent highlights get a taste of what's been happening. I will definitely say that this is only a very small subset of what has been going on in the past year. There's so much happening. And if anyone has specific questions, definitely let us know. And we'll have a whole bunch of resources with information that you can dive a lot more deeply into this. But I always start out with some information about the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is our flagship mission at the moon and one of the funders of International Observe the Moon Night. And this is a mission that, along with a number of other robotic spacecrafts, has just been getting us ready for the next phase of human exploration. And it's helped us reshape our understanding of our nearest neighbor in space. So this spacecraft has mapped the entire moon in amazing detail. We have found so much information, especially at the lunar poles because of our polar orbit. We've found hazards such as boulders and steep slopes and resources, and we're learning about the radiation environment and also things that we can potentially use to safely land and then to make use of what we find on the lunar surface when we go there with astronauts. And we're also finding out how to plan traverses and do scientific investigations in this really harsh environment. And LRO is one of those spacecrafts that's helping us get ready. In this past year, next slide, we have done some new things. So we're going to show you a press release here, but we've been teaching our older spacecraft some new tricks. So LRO has an instrument that called the Miniature Inertial Measurement Unit, or we call it the MIMU. And that is something that has been basically used as a speedometer. It's been helping us know how fast the spacecraft has been going, where it's been pointing, and it's been helping us slew. So it's been helping us rotate like we needed to do to get this amazing image of Tycho's central peak. Over time, it's been degrading. Our spacecraft launched in 2009, and in 2018, we had to power off this particular instrument. And we've not been able to capture all of the really incredible science that we were able to do when we can slew, like making 3D models of the surface, learning about how the sun's light bounces off the surface at different orientations, and just getting these really spectacular views that are not only incredibly scientifically interesting, but really beautiful as well. And so we are now able to do this slewing again more than we were able to from a new algorithm that we developed, or that a team developed on behalf, like our flight team developed. And this is allowing us to do a lot more with our older spacecraft than we had anticipated. So this is really cool. It's fun to keep going and learn how to be creative and nimble with a spacecraft that has been, exposed to the harsh radiation environment near the moon for a really long time. So this is really a testament to the engineering team. It's really incredible. So next slide. We've also been doing some great research. This is a paper that comes out of lead author Dan Moriarty, who is based at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, just like I am. And he and a team of scientists have been trying to figure out where a great place would be to go to get a sample back from the moon to our laboratories on Earth if we want to know more about the lunar interior. So where are the places where we can find pieces of the mantle on the moon? And so they did a whole really intense analysis of this. They used a number of different spacecrafts, including the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, but also Lunar Prospector, the Moon Mineralogy Mapper, which is an instrument on board India's Chandrayaan-1 spacecraft. And they combined a whole lot of different lines of evidence, and they published a paper in Nature Communications and in the Journal of Geophysical Research on where they recommend going to get a piece of the lunar interior. And the bottom line is that it's, sort of in the South Pole Aitken Basin, sort of in the northwest corner there. And it's just a really wonderful study that combines a lot of information. So it's really kind of neat to see how some of the data that we haven't really been able to understand before may be based on some of the really cool mantle chemistry of the moon. So we'll have a link to that if anyone's interested in more details there. So next. All right, another really cool one that the Night Sky Network has had a detailed webinar on from lead author Casey Hannibal. So this is a discovery that is just so cool. It is one where NASA's Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, or SOFIA, confirmed for the first time that there is water present in sunlit areas of the moon. So this is really cool because obviously water is really important for exploration. Note that there is not a tremendous amount of water in the places that they were finding. In comparison, the Sahara Desert has 100 times the amount of water compared to what SOFIA found in the lunar soil in the regolith. But it is still really amazing to find this at all. And it's something that we are investigating further to see whether this might be of use to astronauts. So a really incredible discovery and really, really neat program with that airplane-based observatory, which is really cool. So next, please. All right. To try to cram in a whole lot of information into a short presentation, I wanted to point you to some resources if you are interested in digging deeper. So there has been a series of lunar surface science workshops going on in the past year. This is something that started before the pandemic in terms of trying to get this together as a lunar science community to really investigate deeply a lot of the questions that we need to answer as we're preparing to return to the moon with humans and want to conduct science there and want to keep our astronauts safe there, as well as other assets. And also, how do we fit this together with our commercial partners? How do we fit this together with, nations around the world who are interested in going? And so we've had a number of lunar surface science workshops. The next one is tomorrow. It's lunar science accomplished with a robotic arm. That's the topic for tomorrow. So if you're interested, it is open to the public. This is primarily based on the lunar science community. So people around the world who investigate lunar science questions get together, but you are welcome to listen in if you would like to. And if you'd like to read some reports from a lot of these different meetings, there are ones on tools and instruments, on lunar samples, lunar volatiles, lunar dust and regolith, science enabled by mobility, space biology, and so much more. This is really, really neat. They have these reports, they're open to the community for comment for a period of time, and then they get finalized, incorporating feedback from the community. So they're really, really wonderful. And it's just a beautiful resource for NASA headquarters and for others who are planning how to proceed with lunar science in the next era. So next slide, please. All right, and this new era is Artemis. So of course, we are getting ready to return to the moon with humans. And we're using innovative technologies to explore more of the lunar surface than ever before. So this will be in partnership with academic and commercial partners, international partners, and we're hoping to establish sustained exploration on the moon. So this is beyond what we did with Apollo, with going to one place and then coming back. This is setting up a lunar base at the south pole of the moon and then using it along with another asset that I'll show you around the moon to really go to places that we haven't been investigating more of the moon than we ever have before. So next slide, please. So here are some of those details. So we're going to be launching on the most powerful rocket ship in the world, the Space Launch System. And we're going to be also setting up basically a space station at the moon called the Gateway. And this is going to be built, with partners around the world, commercial and other nations around the world. And we're going to have this asset in orbit around the moon that we can then travel down to the lunar surface and conduct science in different places, which is kind of amazing. So next slide, please. And then we're going to take people, we're going to get there and we're going to be able to, do science on the moon, which is just going to be incredible. We're going to be able to study planetary processes broadly. We're going to probe records from the ancient sun that are preserved on the lunar surface, which is amazing. We're going to be on the far side of the moon where a lot of astrophysicists are really interested in seeing if that is a great place to study the universe, where it's quiet with respect to noise from Earth. And we're going to do science on the surface. And it's just going to be, I'm just so excited to see what we're going to be able to do. And in these really neat new environments. So here you see astronauts at the south pole of the moon in a really neat illumination environment. And so let's go to the next slide here. Just another example of something that's been going on recently. This is a personal example. I recently went to Iceland, which is amazing. And I was in the Highlands, which is one of the areas on Earth that is most similar to the moon. So this is a place where the Apollo astronauts were trained. And some of them called this one of the most moon-like areas that they went on Earth because they went several places. And there are also environments in this area that are very similar to Mars as well. So I went there with a team of scientists and operations folks, and we are preparing to go to the moon here on Earth. So here are some images that I took. On the top right, or top left, sorry, you actually see like one of the lead geology trainers for the astronauts, the EVA lead, the extravehicular activity lead for the International Space Station right now, who will be the lead for astronauts who are walking around on the moon and Mars and telling them what to do and how to do it. There's also, I think the slides just left for me, but I'll keep going because I know who's in the picture.
I'm coming right back.
Oh, no worries. So there's also the lead engineer who is developing tools for the Artemis astronauts. And there were two astronauts. So on the far right, there's an astronaut who has been to the space station several times. And on the left, there is an astronaut who could well be the first woman to walk on the moon or could walk on it someday. So they all came here to try to investigate this landscape and test equipment that we used during Apollo on the moon, and that we're trying to improve in terms of new science or improvements to the Apollo tools for Artemis. So on the top right, you see Adam Nades, who is the lead engineer for the tool development, testing out a pair of knee pads that we can see here did not go well with the pants he was wearing. So this is really important. It's a kind of silly picture, but it shows that, something that was simple in a lab back on Earth, just put on the Velcro and just kneel in the desert, see what happens. You actually have to really prepare this and test it. And it's kind of a funny picture, but I think it just really illustrates the importance of testing. The bottom right is a core sample tube, a vacuum sealed tube that actually was used on, or a similar model was used on the moon for Apollo. And we're, testing it out now in a lunar-like landscape on Earth and seeing what improvements need to be made. And then in the bottom left, that's, an astronaut testing out this tool, and you can see the level of documentation that's going into this. They were videotaping, taking pictures of every single moment of this to figure out where things need to be improved and how they need to be improved. So next slide. in addition to having the operations team there to figure out how to do this investigation on the moon, or these investigations on the moon, we also had the science team. So we had one team that was really interested in the question of, do soils develop on Mars? So that was more of a Mars focused investigation. And they brought out tools similar to what we have on the Mars rovers to investigate primitive soils here on Earth to find out what comparisons they can make in the different data sets. And we also had a team interested in buried ice. So along the top, this is our ground penetrating radar team. And in the middle picture as well, that's part of the ground penetrating radar team. And they were looking at ices buried in Askia crater. And that was helping us compare what they're finding on the ground and then what they're finding in the ground by digging holes to compare with what we're seeing in orbital data to see whether we can use similar operations on the moon to look for buried ice, or on Mars to look for buried ice as resources for our astronauts. And then we were getting additional coverage with our UAVs. So next slide. The astronauts were watching all of this and learning from one another, the science team and the operations team, to see how they could better do science on the moon, which was awesome. And they also did some really, really cool investigations in very low light to simulate doing this, at the south pole of the moon, which was incredible. So next slide. All right. I know I am like way out of time here, so I'm going to sort of zoom through here just by saying that there's a lot of really great stuff coming up. So looking ahead this fall, we are starting some launches with our commercial lunar payload services initiative. So this is a team of commercial partners that we're working with to deliver NASA assets to the moon. And it's going to be really, really wonderful to help get support by bringing scientific instruments and technical investigations to the moon with commercial partners. This is the Viper rover, which is going to be launched in a few years. But that is going to be an instrument, or a suite of instruments that will investigate some of the permanently shadowed craters at the south pole of the moon, looking, in situ, in place for some of the ice resources that maybe astronauts might be able to use. Next. We also have this fall, I feel like I should mention this because for International Observe the Moon Night, we start with the moon and then we really launch into an investigation of the skies, of the Earth around you, of just your surroundings. It's not only the moon, it's really the moon and more. And so coming up this fall, you can continue to learn more about space science and be involved in all kinds of wonderful missions with a few coming up. Particularly here, I'm highlighting Lucy, which is a mission to the Trojan asteroids coming up. October 16th is when it's supposed to launch, on the same day as International Observe the Moon Night. So stay tuned for an amazing day with asteroids and the moon all in one day. And then on the bottom there, I highlight a plaque that we'll post a link to. But I think this is so cool. Lucy's mission has such a stable orbit for so long that included on the mission will be a plaque that is basically a message to future humans. So thousands of years from now, here is something that people might be able to find that's a relic of, this time in our exploration of space. And these are messages that the science and engineering team put together, some of them from, history and some of them present. And I think that's really neat. So check that out if you're interested to see what we're going to send into space as a future message to ourselves. And then on the right, James Webb Space Telescope, which I am sure many of you have heard of, many of you may know a whole lot about this, but it is scheduled to launch on December 18th of this year. And so many exciting updates are coming from that mission. Next, please. All right. So for our website, I won't go into great detail here. I know it's time to turn things over to Vivian, but I do want to just highlight a few things. So next slide. We have a lot of information for you. So on our website, so much to help you out. If you are interested in hosting an event, we have a whole guide for you about thinking about how to plan that, event materials, a sample event. If you want to find a partner to help you with your event, please check out some links that we have there or consider partners from your own community. So next. To participate, if you don't want to host an event, we still welcome you to join us and look on our website for resources so you can find an event. You can find one in your local area, or you can find a virtual one. We have a lot of options coming up in the next several weeks because we actually have quite a large date window. Although International Observe the Moon Night is on October 16th, we are flexible and we understand that not everyone can aim for that exact date. So there's virtual events that you might be interested in for a few weeks before or after International Observe the Moon Night's official date. And we also have tips for observing at home. Connect will take you to a lot of different social media platforms and places to find one another. Our Flickr site, everything has Observe the Moon on our different platforms. We also have links to our live streams. So Vivian's going to talk more about those, but you can find that right here. And then you can also sign up for our newsletter and print yourself a participation certificate when you are done observing the moon for this year. So next. We also, of course, have our registration open. You can hear, I just wanted to mainly highlight that it does default to public event right now when you register. That will shift a little bit as we get closer to the event because we know that folks who are planning early are folks that are holding a public event probably aren't starting to plan that on October 16th, but you can choose at any time, whether it's a public event, a private or household event, or if you're participating by yourself. So you can find that all on our website here. Next. And one thing I wanted to highlight that I'm really proud of for this year, we are very, very supportive of everybody in terms of getting participation in International Observe the Moon Night. We want everyone everywhere to feel comfortable and welcome and included in this program. And so we actually wrote up a code of conduct, hoping that everyone who participates in the event, and especially anyone who hosts a public event, will agree to the guidelines that we have set forth that are basically be kind to one another, welcome other people into your event. And if you are looking for, a code of conduct for another outreach event, you're welcome to take a look at this. This is based on NASA's code of conduct for employees and also for NASA outreach events generally. And we are really excited that not many outreach events seem to have such codes, but we are really, really trying to make it important that everyone everywhere feels welcome, included, and safe participating in International Observe the Moon Night. So you can see here, and we're going to be posting resources associated with this to help event hosts learn more about how to do this if you're curious. So next slide. All right. One last thing I'll mention is that while you're on moon.nasa.gov, you can find out all kinds of new content. We're providing new evergreen content that is related to fundamental lunar science topics. So we're talking about the moon's interior, the evolution, what's going on at the crust. And our latest one here is tides. So many people have been asking about tides. Tides are very complicated. We didn't go into all of the nitty-gritty because it's complicated, but we did try to distill down some of the key things that if you're curious about the tides and how the moon and the sun affect Earth's tides, we have an article with some visualizations for you. So keep coming back throughout the year. We're going to have great new stuff coming soon. Next, please.
I think before I go to the next slide, that was your last one.
I think that's my end. Excellent. Okay.
You made it. That was lovely.
Thank you all. I know that was a lot. And now I am delighted to turn it over to Vivian, who is going to give you some great updates on resources and tips and other wonderful things. So thank you, everybody, and take it away, Vivian.
Actually, before we go to Vivian, we have two questions that I think they're pretty specific for you, Andrea. And so here we've got Terry from YouTube asked, are any experiments planned that will address or test the hypothesis that the moon formed from a planet colliding with Earth?
So that is a really big hypothesis, and I think it takes a lot of data. I don't think that there is a single experiment or a single way that we could perfectly address that. So I don't know of a certain one, but I think that the important part here is that the more information you collect from the more places on the moon, and the more modeling you're able to do, and the better you're able to refine your models, the better you're able to work out such a big, broad hypothesis as that. So I'm not aware of anything in particular, but I think that going back to the moon and collecting samples from more places, in terms of more diverse terrains, and different ages and things like that, that will really give us a better picture of the moon and its evolution, its history, and give us more information about whether that hypothesis still is a good fit or whether we need to refine that further.
I wonder if
Data,
that
data,
mission you were
and more
talking
data.
about. Oh, sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Data, and more data, which leads to the next question from William, who asks if there are going to be any citizen science projects in the works for a lot of this data that's going to come back so that the public can participate in the lunar science.
Oh, I hope so. So I think that is absolutely crucial. I think that not only is it going to be so important because we'll have so much information that we have to process, I think everyone on Earth should have the opportunity, if they're interested, in getting more personally involved in lunar science and exploration. So I think that should happen. I am in a lot of conversations with people at headquarters at Goddard around the agency. I imagine the Night Sky Network will be really interested in this too. I think a lot of people will be. And so, yes, I think we're working on it. And I don't know any particular details right now, but I know that like Brian Day and his team that does, a lot of the Moon Trek and others, and there's a lot of other ones that could really be good platforms to incorporate more citizen science. So we will see, but I hope so. I do know that Vivian's going to have some citizen science featured in her global moon party coming up. And so she might be able to address that as well.
Okay, so anyone else who has any questions, please make sure you put them in the Q&A and we'll get to those during the next pause. So Vivian.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. I love your presentation, Andrea. It's so great to catch up on everything that's happening on the moon, and you look up and you don't know that all that's going on. It's really lovely. All right, so let's see, how are we going to host great events, both safely in person or virtually? I want to give you a heads up that there are going to be 2 live streams happening during the week before and the night of International Observe the Moon Night. There's a global kickoff moon party on October 9th. This is a Saturday night. It's 3 hours long, starts at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be really fun. It's pretty informal. We will have 3 hours of storytelling and some NASA tools, like Andrea was talking about. We'll have amateur astronomers and astrophotographers. We'll even have Robert Niemeyhoff from Astronomy Picture of the Day is going to join us and tell us about his favorite top moon pictures from Astronomy Picture of the Day, APOD. We'll have Brian Day from Moon Treks and some open space folks joining us. Lots of virtual tools that you'll be able to learn about that's on October 9th. I just wanted to mention live also that we're going to be posting all of these links at the end of the webinar. So don't worry, you don't have to write everything down. We'll have a second live stream, and that is the NASA live stream. And they just do the most incredibly beautiful productions. This is 1 hour on October 16th, International Observe the Moon Night itself. And it's going to highlight recent lunar science, some gorgeous visualizations, live feeds of the moon from SLU, some cultural stories, and maybe even some lunar poetry. They just put on a great production. So I wanted to let you know, those are some ways that you can participate even from your home, even virtually. You can share that with others. That's going to be really fun. On the top right there too, if you want to host something virtually, but you're not totally sure about how to do that, we have on the Night Sky Network a quick tip sheet for ways, some 3 tips that make it easier to host events virtually. And that might help you out. The number one is find a team. So I hope if you're going to plan an event for International Observe the Moon Night, you start looking for a few folks who want to do that with you. They can be really fun. I'll give you some tips on how to do virtual events as well. viewing the moon is one of the most important things you can do for International Observe the Moon Night. The main site has, for someone watching on their own, 10 tips for observing at home, how to observe the moon and make it really fun. On the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see the moon map. So there are 6 beautiful pages full of great information: where to find the Maria, the dark spots on the moon, the locations of all the moon landings, and features that'll be highlighted on the 16th. That terminator is the slice between day and night, and that's where you can really see some of the features, because shadows get really long and they define things very well. But if you're observing earlier in the week and you want to know more about the moon, I have a few other of the resources from the NASA Night Sky Network. We've got exploring moon phase cards, and I just put a couple of the days in here. It's from day 3 to 11. Those are the evening moon phases. So you can, if you want to observe on Tuesday instead of Saturday, there is a card for you, and it can tell you what you'll find on those different days. We also have handouts for the public, a Skywatcher's Guide to the Moon. And if you do amateur astronomy with the public, often you will recognize the question, can you see the flag on the moon? Because we get asked that very often. And we have a fun handout that talks about magnification versus resolution and what the difference is. So why we cannot, with our amateur scope, see the flag on the moon, but who can? All right. I wanted to highlight a couple of other really fun tools for virtual events. This is NASA Moon Trek that Andrea mentioned earlier, from Brian Day out of NASA Ames. And is he from NASA Ames? I might have just made that up. I apologize. Brian Day does from the Survey Institute, excuse me. And this is a great visualization. You can go to any place on the moon. You can zoom into where all of the landings happened. You can roam around. There are tours that you can take. It's a lot of fun to explore with folks if you're doing a virtual event. And just something that we put together, pretty informal. It's not as fancy as the Moon Trek, but it's a really fun way to do an activity virtually. I don't know if you all have done the Moon Sort activity, but it's where you have students or adults even try to sort the moon phases in order. And this is one you can do online. So Jamboard, if you haven't tried it, is one of the Google suites, and it's free. And you're welcome to grab this and make a copy and try it out yourself. It's really fun if you're holding a presentation online. Just a couple of things there for you. What else? Okay. The International Observe the Moon Night folks have done an incredible job of having fun, interactive ways to observe the moon. So they've got, of course, the Moon Observation Journal. You're going to want to record the phases of the moon over the course of a month. It's such a fun activity. If you have never done it, even if you watch the moon all the time, I really recommend it. So I just recommend it. That's all. One of the other fun ones that you can do in an evening is the Moon Photo Challenge bingo card. That's really lovely. So you take pictures of yourself with 7, 8 different places. So one of them you can even just take a picture. One of them says, grab a food you would want to bring to the moon. There you go. You can bring anything you want. Bring your favorite food, but something that will last to get there. If you if you're interested in a little bit more of a technical challenge, you don't need any special materials, but the Astronomical League has got a special NASA challenge for International Observe the Moon Night, and I'll put the link in there as well. It's very cool. If you are a member of the Astronomical League, you probably know about what they've been doing, but you don't even have to be a member of the Astronomical League to try out this challenge. They have tons of good observing challenges, but you can do this even if you are not a member, and you'll get a certificate at the end if you fill in all of the things on the list. All right, great. Also on the International Observe the Moon Night website, I found this really, really wonderful. There's a lunar photography guide, and you can do this either with your cell phone or a camera or a telescope. So it gives you ideas of how to frame things when you're taking a picture. If you've ever taken a picture of the moon with your cell phone, you can know it's a little bit challenging because it looks so much smaller than what you think it looks like with your eyes. It's a great way to learn more about taking images of the moon. I highly recommend that. I'm only covering just a few of the things that are out there, but things that I think you might be interested in. If you'd like to hold an event, if any of these interest you, you can find links to all of them at the end. All right, not just science, but how about art as well? So this great poet from France said, art is science made clear. And there are these gorgeous images. The folks from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, they've put together the moon as an art gallery. And that's the picture, one of them is the picture on the right, which they call Starry Night. It's really cool. It's actually just showing the angles of the slopes in the different craters, but doesn't it look amazing the way that they've colored it? So they had a contest, and you can see the top 5 or 10 of the images that made it in. And these are all taken with NASA missions. And so they're professional images that also just look beautiful. So that's kind of fun to be able to see the science in a different way. There is Observe the Moon has a whole art side to it. So if you search on any of your social media channels, hashtag Observe the Moon, you will find tons of moon art. It's wonderful. I think they have certainly the Flickr page, but also Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at the very least. They have all of those images that people have drawn of the moon. They have done some beautiful digital creations of the moon, anything you can imagine. So that's a fun one. And of course, if you like to get crafty, there are always hands-on materials. One of my favorites is the craters on the moon, where you take flour and cocoa powder and then you drop things into it. It is a crowd pleaser every time. I encourage you to keep that away from your telescopes because it does get a little dusty, but such a fun activity no matter what. And we've got, you can find that just about anywhere. There's also a moon phase calculator from JPL. That's a fun one that you can cut out and then calculate the moon phase at any given time. Lovely. Up top there, I have a picture from one of the NSN astronomy clubs. Oh, I can't tell who that is, but they have taken one of the 3D models and they're doing moon rubbings. So there's so many things that you can do to get the world excited about the moon. Last, but definitely not least, make sure to bring moon food. Right there, you can just look up moon snacks or something like that. They've got edible moon sand. They have moon pies. You can make moon cakes. This one on the top right is a recipe for what the moon looks like on the inside, the Earth and the moon. That big one there is the Earth with the core and the mantle and all of that. And then the small one with the red hot in the middle is the moon. And it tells kind of what they look like on the inside and why they're so different. And of course, the moon phase sandwich cookies is a very easy one. And I love those. So I'm going to stop there. I know there are plenty more. If you want to stick in the chat something that you have done that you've really liked as far as a International Observe the Moon Night activity, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'm going to pass that right along to Sandlin, who's coming up next. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vivian. We're going to do the last piece and then we'll have some time for discussion and questions. And so my role is helping us make the events better and better every year. And so I lead what is our evaluation team, in addition to getting to do my very own events. And I'm really excited. But I always like to say that giving us feedback, so the International Observe the Moon Night coordinating committee and the planning team is really, really important. And so it's helping us getting future support from NASA and other funders. It's helping us tell amazing stories about your events, and it's helping us support you better in the future. And so we take a lot of the data, we roll up registration data. This is how we can make these beautiful maps like we have under here, but it also helps us get more resources. And so for, like Andrea said, because we heard from so many people that the NASA live stream was great and we got some feedback, we're going to do it again. We got more feedback on things like we should have a webinar for hosts before they host their events. And so we've been doing more and more webinars, honing them in onto things that you really want, doing more translations. And so we've really streamlined all the feedback into just 2 pieces. There will be a host survey that will be open on October 1. So if you're hosting early, you'll see that. And that will be linked from the website. We'll be sending it out in emails. We'll send it out through the Night Sky Network. And then the other thing that we really are hoping you can help us with, next slide, please, is a lunar observer survey. And so we have streamlined feedback from anyone who participates in an event, whether it's a public, a private, on their own, is just telling us about their event. And so we have these flyers that are available. We have a QR code. We have a bit.ly, 10 URLs. And basically it's just a short survey for people to tell us about their event. They're all virtual. And so if you're having a virtual event, if you're having an in-person event, we would love for you to help us. By doing this, we're getting really close. We're getting hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the world, from over 100 countries, telling us about their event. And we would just like to hear more. On that survey, people can tell us how they observe, what they learned, what they were inspired by, and they also have an opportunity to share photos or other visualizations. So if there's artwork that they've done, they can share that with us as well. And I am all done.
Woohoo! Thank you all so much just for joining us. I'm going to, speaking of surveys, I'm going to put a quick survey in the chat so we can understand how to better serve you, find out what you took from this, what you need more of, and then we keep improving. So give me 1 second to go find that. I wanted to mention too, for Night Sky Network members who are listening in, we are sending out packages of moon goodies tomorrow. So if you post your moon event tonight, I will run the list tomorrow. We just want a moon event between the 9th and the 24th, I believe. Anything that has the word moon in it will qualify, and we'll send you a package of goodies. So I'm going to stop sharing and find the link to that survey. I'll be right back. Brian, did we have any questions? Oh, looks like there was one from the live stream. So there was a question about the NASA TV broadcast. Andrea, do you want to take that one?
Sure, yes. So unfortunately, as of today, we do not have an exact time set for the NASA TV broadcast. We have it confirmed for October 16th. As this is the same date as the Lucy launch, it is a little bit rough in terms of scheduling when all of their media will be broadcast. And also, of course, there can be launch slips and things like that. In different times. So it's been a little bit difficult to get it exactly determined, but it will be on October 16th, and we will probably air it more than once. And it will be recorded, and we can post that for anyone who would like to see it later. So you're welcome to, sit back, relax on your couch and watch it, or feature it at an event. That's a great thing to just have running in the background, or however you can creatively incorporate it, you're welcome to do that. But we will definitely post the information about that as soon as we possibly can, when we get the word from headquarters, when that will be. So thanks for asking.
And I posted in the chat, there is a quick survey, just takes a minute or two to fill out. If you could just tell us about tonight's webinar, that will be helpful as we answer some questions.
So we have a question, where can I download the activity papers and forms for my event?
Do you want to answer that, Vivian?
No, what are we talking about? Activity papers and forums?
I would say on the website, right?
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
everything.
Everything's on the website. So if you go to moon.nasa.gov/observe, you can find all kinds of resources. In fact, at the top of the page, there's an About tab, a How to Host, Participate, and Resources. So in the resources place, you can find, our activities, you can find multimedia, you can find like this beautiful background that we're all featuring. It's going to be there. And we have a lot of new things coming up. Just another preview for fun, because why not? We have a new tool that we're developing that is a moon viewing guide for every day of the year. So this is for whenever you want to go look at the moon, any day of the year, whether that's today or whether you're going on vacation to a place that will have a great opportunity to view the sky. you can find out a few of the places that we recommend you look at on the moon. So it's really meant for the complete novice. It's for, anyone who doesn't really know what to look for on the moon or why to look for or what they're looking at. If you're an amazing professional astronomer, you may not get a whole lot out of this tool. It's really meant for those of you who just want to get to know the nearest neighbor in space and just become more familiar with how the moon changes over time throughout the month. But that's coming soon. So that'll be, in there along with our other resources as well.
Excellent. There's a question from YouTube, seeing if there's any possibility that there are workshops for teachers to do something with some of that data, or the possibility of accessing the data. If there are any workshops, or if there's any information for teachers regarding the geology of the moon.
Well, we are developing some of those new resources for the public, not just specifically for teachers, but for anyone who's interested. That will be going up on moon.nasa.gov. And there are, a number of teacher resources on the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter website. So I can go find that and put that in the chat. We did a number of teacher workshops all around the country for many years. Sandlin helped evaluate them. And so we have a lot of tools that we pulled together that we thought were really helpful with teachers, primarily middle school teachers, but really any teacher who would like to adapt it. So I can put the link there. We also have a webinar coming up next week that we have announced in the NASA Express newsletter. And this is intended for educators. So we're going to go a little more into some of a little bit of science. It's sponsored by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, this one. So I'll focus more on Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter results there. And then also some activities that align with some standards a little more specifically than how we outlined them here today. And that's for anyone's welcome to that. If you subscribe to the NASA Express newsletter, you can find it. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, definitely just let us know and we can put a link in the chat about how to access that.
We do have a hand up.
Oh,
Yeah.
anybody want to type something into the chat? I can't see who that is. Rich.
It looks like it's Rich.
All right, let's give this a shot. We never
Okay.
have anyone
Okay,
talking.
there we
Rich,
go.
if you're interested, let's give it a shot. If you want to unmute, you can. I think you're allowed to talk now. Or you can put it in the chat if you want.
Yeah, totally.
There's a question in the Q&A that we might have to crowdsource because we have a really knowledgeable crew here. Does anyone know if the Lunar X will be visible during the October 1st quarter moon? I do not know the answer to that. But I bet there's somebody in the chat or on YouTube who knows the answer to that.
That would be great. I hope someone speaks up and definitely answers that one. I also just wanted to mention, since people are asking about teacher resources, the Office of STEM Engagement is going to have a number of really amazing resources coming out this fall in association with Artemis. So there's going to be an Artemis learning pathway that if you, again, subscribe to the NASA Express newsletter, I'm sure it will be announced there, but it's going to be a number of weeks where they highlight a topic and have associated resources along with that. And there's also some new resources that they're developing in the Moon to Mars theme, in the planetary science theme. And some of them actually we highlight in the activities on our website this year. So there was a new resource package released by the Office of STEM Engagement, and Stacy Tiedecken, who put together our activities for this year, pulled some pieces from that. And I wonder if I can point them out in there somewhere, but there are ones that are from, let me see if I can even just find them right now. I should have had our website open always, but especially now, but I'll dig for that for just a second.
Oh, okay. Dawn says she shot the X and V in May. Yeah, I was under the assumption that you should be able to capture it the proper moon phase each month. I didn't know how short of a time period that Lunar X makes it, how long it stays. I thought it was a little, I thought you could get it most months, but I'm not sure about that. I've only ever seen it a couple of times. But there is a way to find out. You might want to try this. I stuck something in the chat, the moon phase and libration for 2021. You could certainly, oh, Kathy's asking what the Lunar X is. Thanks for keeping us honest, Kathy. So right around first quarter moon, stop me if I'm wrong, October, oh, so yeah, so right there is on the moon, the shadows make it look like there is an X, apparently a V2 that Dawn says. I did not know that. It's a trick of the shadows, kind of like the face that you can see on Mars, you know, how the rocks make it look like, you know, we like to anthropomorphize things. So sometimes the shadows look like common things, kind of like we do with the constellations, right? We make them look like things that we know. So there is an X and a V. Ron in the chat says there's no Lunar X on the 16th because it's going to be a gibbous moon. That's true. It won't be on the International Observe the Moon night itself. And Rusty just looked it up. I love all of these chiming in. Thank you. It looks like 10 o'clock UTC on the 13th. Oh, Michael says he didn't think it occurred every month due to libration. Good questions. Gosh. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. A lot of good information there. Let's see. Is there any more questions? We are here for another minute or two, and then we're going to say good night. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Jeff says it is not visible every month, excuse me. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Well, in our last minute, I definitely want to thank everyone again. Thank Vivian and Sandlin and Brian and the Night Sky Network and all of you for coming. And I also want to let you know, if you have further questions after we get off this webinar, there is a contact us button on our website on moon.nasa.gov/observe. We've been collecting a lot of really awesome questions about the moon there so that we can, post general answers to some popular questions, but we can also get back to you individually if there's something that you're interested in learning about. So we definitely would love to keep in touch. So keep asking questions if there's anything else we can help you with, and let us know if there are other resources that we can point you towards. So thank you all very, very much. It's been such a pleasure to be here with you, as it always is. So thank you again.
Well, we've been doing this with Andrea. I don't know how many years we keep having you back, but it's always a lot of fun to have you here in Sandlin. It's always great to work with you too. So we're looking forward to many more of these in the future.
It's going to be a great moon year. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
And keep an eye out for all the links. They will be posted both on the YouTube stream as well as on the Night Sky Network page where this lives. So those will be up later this evening.
And don't forget to join us on Tuesday, the 21st for the regular Night Sky Network science webinar. This month, we're featuring, let's see, what's the guy's name was coming? Paul Abel is coming. He's going to talk about the DART mission. It's a technology mission to kind of a proof of concept with whether or not they can move an asteroid. So let's go see if we can nudge one into a slightly different orbit. So might be kind of important in the future.
Sounds fantastic.
Thanks all. All right, one last link. Before we go, I'm just going to say, if you have not yet taken the amateur astronomer survey, now is a great time to do so. There is a decadal and amateur astronomy survey that is out, and I'm going to put that in the chat as well. It'll be closing September 15th. So if you haven't had a chance, now's a great time. That does take about 15 minutes though, so it's a little longer. Thanks, everyone.